Today, I'm going to show you 5 Excel formulas that are so helpful that even complete beginners can start using them to impress their boss and save a ton of time on manual work. My name is Oliver Pan, and I'm your favorite internet tech bro. And without further ado, let's get into it. These 5 formulas are Vlookup, Sumifs, Iferror, Textsplit, and clean. I'm going to show you one of the most useful formulas in Excel. So Vlookup or vertical lookup grabs a value for you based on a name or ID. Here we have a data set on some supermarket branches, and let's say your manager wants to know who the branch manager is for New York. Use cases like this is where Vlookup really thrives. So here we have a Vlookup function. This function actually has 4 components. So the first component is the name or ID that you want to do the lookup against. In our case, it's New York. And the second component is the data range that you're performing this function on. As you can see, it's highlighted in red here. And the third component of the formula is called a column index. And you get to this by counting from left to right until you get to the column of value that you want. In this case, we want branch manager, and it's the third column from the left. The last component is whether you want an approximate or exact match. You will use exact match, which means you will type in false here 99.9% of the time, and that's because the approximate match version of the formula usually behaves very weird and doesn't do what's intended. So here we have a completed Vlookup formula, and as you can see, this formula is getting you the name of the New York branch managers as intended, and his name is Trey Young. All right, now I will show you the power of the Sumifs function. So Sumifs is kind of like a Vlookup, but instead of returning a value based on a name or ID, you can add up all the numbers that's associated with an ID. So here, let's say your boss wants to know what's the annual revenue of all the stores that we have in CA, California. We can do that against the data set that we have here. So if you type in Sumifs, the first argument or component of the formula is the value that you want to add up. So in this case, it's column G. And then the second component is the criteria range. So in our case, it will be column E. So that's the column with all the state names. And then the third component is the name or ID that we want the function to look up on. So in this case, we have California or CA. And as you can see here, we correctly added up all the annual revenue for the California stores. 2 of them are in Los Angeles. The other one is in Irvine, so adds up to 18.5 million. And the beauty of this function is that, if you want to add more filters, you can just keep repeating component 2 and 3, and it's just gonna apply the filters for you. So for example, let's say your manager told you, hey, I want to know the revenue for all the Los Angeles branches, right? In this case, you would add another component, which is the branch name. And for the last argument, you were putting Los Angeles. And what this would do is that it would only sum up the annual revenue if it's a branch in California and if the branch name is Los Angeles. So I think I need a double quotation mark here. As you can see, the new formula adds up to 12.8 million, which takes out the annual revenue from the Irvine store, which we had earlier. If you do any kind of calculations within Excel, the Iferror function is going to help make your reports look a lot more professional to your boss and stakeholders. So here we have some data on some supermarket branches, their annual revenue, their annual cost of goods sold. And the last column, we have annual gross profit, which is a formula of total annual revenue minus total annual cost of goods sold. And as you can see here, for the third row, which is data for the Los Angeles branch, we're getting an error message. And you might run into situations like this in your day-to-day. So we definitely don't want to send this spreadsheet to our boss like this because it looks very unprofessional. As I investigated a little bit, I actually found out, we actually don't know the annual cost of goods sold for the Los Angeles branch. And this is not a number here. So when we try to do the subtraction, if there's an error message. So in this case, you would just do if error and use the subtraction as the first component of the formula, and then you can tell Excel, hey, if this is wrong, just say missing info. So in this case, you know, when this report goes to your boss, it looks a lot better. Have you ever been asked by your boss to parse out first and last names from a list of hundreds, if not thousands of records? Obviously, you always have the option to go in there and do it one by one, right? You can copy the first name and you can copy the last name, and then you can do it like row by row. But what if I told you there's a better way to do this, right? So it's an Excel formula called Textsplit. All you have to do here is enter the formula itself, and then you enter the cell that you want to split, and then you will just tell the formula to split by space. And as you can see here, we have first and last name just like that. And then to replicate this process for hundreds of rows, all you have to do is that you move your mouse cursor to the bottom right of the formula, and then you just double click or just drag it down, and now you're done. Here, I saved you a ton of time. Alright, let's say your boss wants you to split out the first and last name from a list, but everything here is really jacked up. There's a couple Excel functions that can help you. So the first one is the clean function. This will remove unprintable characters. This is especially useful if you have an older system that you're working with. That's a problem you have to deal with more often. The second function is trim. So this will remove extra spaces between names. Last but not least, we can add a proper function. This will just, detect this is a name, and it will capitalize everything accordingly. So in this case, as you can see here, the name Trey Young is capitalized properly, and the extra space is removed. And as some of you might be able to tell, there's a percentage sign that's not picked up by any of our functions. So this is when you have to do a find and replace within Excel. So the way you do this is go to your home screen, and you can find the replace function all the way to the right. And for those of you who like shortcuts, you would just press on Control F, and then it would give you the option to do a find and replace. So in this case, we want to find the percentage sign, and we want to replace them all. And as the function is done, you see the names are now properly formatted and ready to be split. So now you would just do text split for the name, and because there's only one space between the first and last name, you can just use space to split the names. And now, as you can see, we have the proper first and last name. So this is especially useful if you're working with large lists of names, and it could save you hours of time.